तदनन्तरं गुरु पापात्मनां त्रातां श्री कृष्णस्त्वमलात्मना नमः कमलनाभाय नमः नमः कमलपादाय नमस्ते कमले क्षण यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्मंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये. Dear devotees, we'll do a few minutes of Nam Sankirtan, after which time I'll be answering some questions. भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
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 गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
भजो गोपाला
भजो गोपाला
भजो गोपाला
भजो गोपाला
भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
भजो मुरली मनोहर नंद लाला
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 भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
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 भजो गोपाला
भजो गोपाला
भजो नंद लाला
भजो नंद लाला
भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला
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 भजो गिरिधर गोविंद गोपाला।
बोलो वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की। Radhe Radhe everyone. We'll be continuing where we left off last Sunday with questions sent in by our YouTube viewers, and we have quite a few today. The first one is really two questions in one. One confusion and one question. So the question verbatim is, which of the Hindu gods is the soul a part of? So the question is, describe the relationship between soul and God. The confusion is that there is more than one God. So let us address both of those. And we can say, in fact, there's a second confusion. Putting the qualifier Hindu before God also indicates a confusion. So these are very common, very prevalent confusions. So it's nothing to feel badly about if someone has this type of confusion, but let us understand the correct philosophy. Eko devah sarvabhuteshu gudha sarvavyapi sarvabhutantaratma. Shvetashvatropanishad says there's only one God. Charam pradhanam amritaksharam hara charatmana vishate deva ekaha. Again, Shvetashvatropanishad, there is only one God who rules over all the souls and the material energy, Maya. Only one God. In fact, Chandogya Upanishad goes to the point of saying, Ekameva dvitiyam brahma nehana nasti kinchana. There is only one, just God, nothing else. That's a longer explanation we won't go into today. It's describing the oneness between God and God's powers. Although souls and Maya are individual entities, distinct from God, but they're also said to be one with God from certain perspectives. But for today, it's enough to understand that God is only one. Although there are three eternal tattva, God, souls, and Maya, individual souls are infinite in number. Maya, God's material energy, produces this infinite universe. And God, who is also infinite, is only one. The entire universe is contained within that one God. And that one single God resides within the heart of every soul. Sarvavyapi, sarvabhutantaratma, gudha. God is hidden away inside each one of us. But only one God. That's the first point. If God were even two, then neither would be called God. Because the very definition of God is the one with absolute power, who is omnipresent, who is the ruler of everything. Nothing rules over them. Everyone and everything's existence depends upon them, but they don't depend upon anyone. If there were even two gods, then they would both limit each other. Where one God finished, the other God could start. So it defies the very definition of God even to think that we have two gods, let alone many gods. That addresses the first question, or the first confusion, making God plural. God is in fact one. The second confusion is that there is such thing as a Hindu God. God being one for all the souls of the entire universe is not assigned a religion. God is God for all souls, whether that soul identifies as Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, any religion. God is the same. That same one God is the one to whom all the souls belong. So the question was about to which God of which God are the souls ansh? Ansh means a part of. We are all ansh of the same God. Understand it like this. I told you there are three eternal entities: God, souls who are infinite in number, God being one, and Maya. Maya is a lifeless, mindless energy which is activated by God. And when God activates Maya, the infinite universe is manifested. And when God withdraws his power from Maya, Maya becomes dormant, but still continues to exist. This cycle of manifestation and dissolution of the universe has gone on since eternity. It never began. And we, the individual souls, also never began. God never created us, although he gives life to us. God resides within us and gives us our life, consciousness. But God did not create us because we've existed forever. Souls are souls. We are all souls, which means we all belong to God's Jeev Shakti. Means his soul power. He has his Maya Shakti, his material power, or cosmic power, and he has his Jeev Shakti, soul power. Maya Shakti manifests the endless universe, and Jeev Shakti is the totality of all the individual souls in existence, infinite, individual, infinitesimal souls. Amritasya vai putrah. Ved says, because of this we are all said to be God's children. Thus we are all truly brothers and sisters. All of us, all souls, born anywhere in the universe, let alone on this earth planet, in other species, or as humans in other religions, in other countries, of other races or ethnicities, we're all souls. The body changes. The body shows differences between us. But as souls, we are all originating from the very same place. We are all God's children equally. And we are all, so that's why we say we're ansh. Chinmatram Shree Hareransham Sukshmam Aksharam Avyayam Krishnadhinamiti Prahur Jivam Jnana Gunashrayam. Ved. Mamaivansho Jivaloke Jivabhuta Sanatana. Gita. Ansho Nana Vyapadeshat. Brahma Sutra. These are all saying that souls are ansh of God. It means that we are all a part of the same Jeev Shakti, and that Jeev Shakti is God's power. God is giving life to all the souls. Which God? The one God, the same God. So things are getting clarified now. There's one God for the whole universe, all infinite souls, no matter where in the universe they reside, or if they reside on this earth planet, no matter which species they're born into, or if they're born as human, no matter which race or ethnicity or religion they're born into, they're all ansh of the same God. Then where do these different designations come from? Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Sikh, Jain, Buddhist. Where do all these different designations come from? Parsi, also called Zoroastrianism, Confucianism, Taoism, Shintoism. We have all these different ways of worshiping God. We call religions. Where did they come from? Oh, they all had different beginnings from a certain great personality or a divine personality or leader from this scripture or that scripture. They all have various beginnings, but and not all these religions go as far as the topic of God. Some are simply related to good and bad actions, which is fine. But if there's a description of God, which God are they describing? Their God? No, the God. They're all describing the one God. They may use a different terminology or different name or names and describe God differently, but that God is one and the same. My point is, there's no such thing as a Hindu God. And there's no such thing as a Muslim God or a Christian God. There is only God. And we are all ansh of that same God. But now we need to bring our understanding a little further ahead. That same God, as I mentioned, may not even be described in certain religions. Like Confucianism only deals with social codes of behavior, good and bad behavior. Shintoism deals with certain material personalities, not quite devtas, more like within the spirit world, bhutlok type. Nature spirits, that type of thing. Taoism deals with understanding more, getting close to Nirakar Brahm, formless God, and the oneness of God with everything that exists. Jain Dharma also deals with good and bad actions and up to Swarg, but not beyond that. Sikh Dharma describes God briefly with some indication of names like Govinda and Ram. Bauddha Dharma, Buddhism, describes reducing desires in order to gain peace of mind, but doesn't, although Buddha Bhagwan is God himself, but he didn't go even as far as describing the soul, let alone describing God, because that was what was required at that time. Christian Dharma, Muslim Dharma, Jewish Dharma all describe God in a general way, like God is all-powerful. God sees everything you do and will give you the consequences of your good and bad actions. God is the creator of the universe. God is omnipresent, all-knowing. These basic descriptions are there. So, all these descriptions that I just summarized for you very briefly, all of them are also included in the descriptions of our Vedas, plus further ahead, Vedas, Puranas, what we would call Sanatan Dharma, or nowadays Hinduism. We have a more detailed description of who? Our separate Hindu God? No. the same God that was described variously in those different religions is described in more detail in the scriptures of Sanatan Dharma. For example, what does God look like? That same God that this religion or that religion described as being supreme, almighty, all-knowing. Can you tell me more about his or her personality? What are they like? What do they look like? That description is unique to our Vedic scriptures. It's not to say one is better or lesser, better or worse, but it's unique to Hinduism. If you want to know what God looks like, the same God that's described in other religions is described in more detail in our Hindu scriptures and by our historical saints. That God looks like this. Radha Krishna. That is the very form of God, the very almighty, all-blissful, all-knowing God that you heard described in this holy book or that holy book of these other religions. That's what that God looks like. The same God they're describing, this is what that God looks like. They may not know or accept, that's fine. We're not enforcing anything on anybody. But God is one. So this is what God looks like. This same God, Radha Krishna, has other forms because although they're one, they have infinite powers, so they can appear or manifest themselves in any way as Shiva, as Durga, as Vishnu, as Sitaram, Saraswati, Ganesh. But it's still just Radha Krishna. Krishna, the male form of Radha. Radha, the female form of Krishna. So, whose ansh are we? We are ansh of Radha Krishna, directly, simply put. But if someone wants to think of God by any other name, by any other description, it's fine. They're also ansh of the same God. They're just calling God by a different name. So this is to answer that first question, which was very short. Which of the Hindu gods is the soul a part of? But to really understand the details of what was being asked, I had to explain all of that. So before I go further ahead with the several other questions that were sent in, does anyone here have any follow-up questions to what I just explained? Was anything unclear? Anything you want to hear explained more, or some other question that came in your mind? You can raise your hand. We'll bring a wireless microphone around to you. And otherwise, I'll continue further ahead. Nagavaya? Yeah, just wait for keep your hand up so we can see you.
Radha Bhaiya.
Radha.
This question is not related to this one or follow-up. I have a different question actually.
That's okay.
Yeah. We know mind is the doer. Mind does everything. Mind desires. If the desire is fulfilled, then we get greed. If not fulfilled, we get an anger. So the mind, after few times, it knows that I am going to get suffer with the anger or with the hatred or jealousy, all those things, right? The mind is the one going to suffer. Does it not know that, okay, if I do this, I am going to suffer eventually?
There is the case of a person who hasn't received Tattva Gyan from a divine personality. Okay, take us before we understood the philosophy as explained by Shree Maharaj Ji. Was our mind on some level confounded by that? Yes. And as well, confounded by the fact that no matter how much it enjoys its favorite things in the world, it never feels fulfilled. And yet, we don't know anything better, so we can't accept that that's a dead end. How could we? Then give up hope of finding happiness? We don't even know what we want. No one ever even told us, you want perfect happiness. All we know is we want something that we don't have. What is the nature of that something? What is the extent of it? The saints have to tell us, you want perfect, unlimited, everlasting happiness. Oh, we couldn't even figure out that much on our own. But deep down we were confused and confounded by that. Why do I keep enjoying and I just always feel restless and then angry and frustrated? So then, yes, the mind also understands. The very things that make me happy also sometimes make me angry if I lose them or when I don't get the way I want. We know that, but we can't sort it out on our own. A saint has to explain it to us. And then once we come to the situation we're in, where we've had this explained to us and we've accepted it intellectually, but our situation now is that we intellectually accept it and we could complete an exam answering all the questions, but we haven't completely transferred the attachment of our mind from those objects and people in the world to Radha Krishna. Therefore, the mind still reacts in that way to the degree of our attachment. It's as simple as that. Intellectually we understand, but our mind still has its emotional reaction to the same degree that we still have that attachment. And the attachment gradually reduces the more we do sadhana and seva, and the mind purifies, but it's a slow process.
Okay, thank you, Bhaiya.
Yes, Naresh Bhaiya.
Radha Radha Bhaiya. So the question is, if two souls, they know each other in this life and they both get Bhagavad Prapti and they are both in Golok, will they recognize each other?
So after God realization, you can remember everything if you want to and know everything if you want to. You can remember all your karma from all your past lives, every family you had in every past life. You could remember all of that if you want to. And see, we've had all the relationships with all the souls. We keep getting recycled. So you wouldn't just recognize one. You'd recognize all the souls over there. Oh, remember that time I was your son? Remember that? But would we spend much time thinking about that? I don't know. That's another question. We might be more interested in enjoying divine bliss. But it might be a curious thing to discuss. Who knows?
True. Thank you, Bhaiya. One more question. So again, if two souls, they are obviously not God realized, and one soul has attachment in the other soul who gets God realized, would that benefit the soul who was attached to the soul who was not God realized earlier but now God realized?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Because now you're talking about attaching your mind to a divine personality. The outcome of that is you'll get a devotional birth in your next life if you yourself aren't God realized before the end of this life. If you're mostly attached to that divine personality. Maharaj said in a lecture we watched a few days ago that if your relative is a God realized saint, then you'll get divine benefit by attaching your mind to them. But if they're not, if they're a material person like us, then you'll just get material results from that, not devotional results. There was one more question which is related to something I was explaining. In fact, we discussed this last week, but I suppose it's a clarification. The question is there more than one universe? Now, last week I explained in the universe there are infinite Brahmand, right? A Brahmand is a planetary system. A planetary system is made up of three parts: Mrityulok, Swarg, and Narak. And all three are Mayic. So Swarg we would call heaven or the celestial abodes. Narak we would call hell or the hellish abodes. And Mrityulok, that's where we are here. Swarg and Narak are in a different dimension. It's not like if you go up high enough you'll reach Swarg, or you go down low enough you'll reach Narak. We say it's above and below, but it's in a different dimension. But it's in the same material dimension, same material area as our planet here. But altogether it's a planetary system. So our Earth planet has its own Swarg and its own Narak. We have our own Yamraj over here. We have our own Indra, we have our own Varun, we have our own Kuber, all the celestial gods. And here you're allowed to put an S on the end because it's not divine God. These are just personified material powers, or these are Mayic positions, part of the celestial administration of our planetary system. So we have our own celestial gods, Devtas. That's within one Brahmand. And within our Brahmand, God himself takes avatar as Vishnu and as Shiva. So Vishnu comes from his divine abode, Vaikunt. He sets up a branch office or an embassy here in our planetary system. So does Shivji, and Brahma also comes. So we have our own Brahma, our own Vishnu, and our own Shankar, the three governors of our Brahmand. Brahma And. And means egg-shaped or elliptical, and Brahma, the creator. So Brahma ka And means Brahmand. That's where the word Brahmand comes from. In our Brahmand, we have our Brahma who creates the Brahmand, our Vishnu who protects the Brahmand, and our Shankar who destroys the Brahmand. These are the three governors of our Brahmand. But there are infinite such Brahmand in the universe. Not one or two, not a million or a billion, infinite Brahmand, because the number of individual souls in existence is infinite, so you would need infinite Brahmand to accommodate those infinite souls. Although the number of souls residing in each Brahmand is uncountable, but it's not infinite, right? Could you count the number of souls on our Brahmand? You can't even count the number of bacteria living on your skin. Even that is uncountable, and each of those bacterium is a soul. Now tell me, how many souls are residing on our earth? But it's still not infinite, it's a finite number, even though it's uncountable. But the number of souls in the universe is infinite. Therefore you require, it's mathematical, you need infinite Brahmand to accommodate infinite souls. But when we use the term universe, by definition, uni, one, it indicates puri srishti, the entire creation. That's the universe. So there's one universe, but within the universe, whatever it may be, endless in all directions, within that universe there are infinite Brahmand. One Vishnu, one Shankar, and one Brahma governing each Brahmand, and all ansh of Shri Krishna. They're also his ansh, but actually they are he himself. They're his swanch, and we are his vibhinnansh. I won't get into that anymore today. But that's the distinction when we say there is one universe but infinite Brahmand. Now some people translate the word Brahmand as universe, so then they say there are infinite universes, but then what will you say? Infinite universes in the what? You need a word to describe the entirety of creation, right? So that word is universe. Universe indicates the totality of Mayic existence, the endless universe. But within that universe, there are infinite Brahman. Any questions about that? Even if you go to Brahman Ghat out here, if you're walking, the sign reads, young Krishna showed infinite universes to Maya Yashoda in his mouth. So even that, we should correct that to infinite planetary systems. That's the correct translation of Brahman, is planetary system. A Brahman isn't a universe. Our Brahman means just our solar system plus our Swarg and Narak. Itna hi ek Brahman hota hai. Within our own galaxy, there are so many stars that could be suns with earth planets, with souls living over there. So even within our own galaxy, we could have so many Brahmand, so many planetary systems with souls living over there. So it's confusing if you translate Brahmand as universe, because even in our galaxy we have other Brahmans. So Brahmand is a planetary system. Yes?
Radha Radha Bhaiya, so do we ever learn, like when Bhagwan takes avatar in a Brahman, and that gets documented into a scripture, the scriptures that we now know of today, are those only from our Brahman, or do we know about what work God did in other Brahmans?
Each Brahman has a similar structure and similar avatars of God that happen, and the same scriptures, same Ved, same Puran, same Gita, same Mahabharat, same Ramayana on all the Brahmans. The only difference is that Ved never changes. Even one word of Ved doesn't change on other Brahmans, or even over time as it's revealed again and again on our Brahman. But the Puran, Ramayana, these are called Smrit Granth. The wordings change even from time to time on our earth planet. So say Brahma's day ends, there's a partial pralay, then Brahma starts life on earth again, the very same earth. He has to reintroduce the scriptures, or through certain saints they're reintroduced. Then the sentence structure is going to be different. The order of certain words is going to be different. So it's not like Ved, which is Vinirgat Granth, nothing, not even one syllable changes. But all the other scriptures, they have variations within them, although they tell more or less the same history. But again, the history of our Brahman will have some differences with the history of another Brahman. So their Puran over there will tell exactly what happened in their Brahman. But more or less, overall, it's the same philosophy, same dissensions of God, different divine saints, which just like they'll have a Narad over there. You have a question?
No, I'm just a runner.
Ritu in the back.
Radhe Radhe Bhaiya. So the question I have is, the other lokas which Maharaj Ji describes for the material happiness, right, all the way to the Brahma lok, are they also replicated in each Brahmand?
Yes. So the structure of Swarg is the same in every other Brahmand as well.
Okay. And the other question is the souls that are in this Brahmand right now, like all of us. So do we keep getting reborn into this Brahmand itself?
I've never seen a definite rule described about that. I've only heard it said that when our Brahman finishes, after its final pralay, then we souls, if we're not God realized, will be transferred and given birth in any other Brahman. But in between, are we changing around, being born in other Brahmans, or are we being born again and again here? I would just be guessing if I tried to answer that.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Yes, here in the front. Abita.
Radhe Radhe Bhaiya. So our goal is to attain Nishkam Bhakti, but since we're all under Maya, our nature is to be selfish. So when we're trying to attain that goal, how do we go about that?
That's one of those things that you really need Guru's grace because of what you just said. Our mental habit in the world and really our underlying nature is to seek our own happiness, so it's against our nature to be selfless. Even when we're helping somebody else, we do it because helping somebody else feels good. It makes us happy. But it's possible to start getting a glimpse of that sentiment of selfless love only through Maharajji's grace. So you have to just say, Maharajji, I want to know what that feels like. What does it feel like to love you or love Radha Krishna selflessly? He'll grace you with that feeling, and then you'll know, oh, that's okay, I have to develop this feeling. It's only Guru's grace.
Thank you.
Yes, in the very back.
Radhe Radhe Bhaiya.
Radhe Radhe.
What does one surrender? Is the sense of I, or what am I surrendering when Maharajji says you have to surrender yourself to Guru? So what am I surrendering?
Mayyeva mana adhatsva, mayi buddhin niveshaya. So we have to surrender our man and buddhi, both. Man means your emotional mind, your feelings, your love. Loving someone is also surrendering to them. And then the buddhi means the intellect. So we surrender our heart or our man to those we love, our family. We surrender our intellect to our doctor, our mechanic, our teacher. In other words, we say, you know, I don't know. I'm going to follow what you say. Those are the two aspects of surrender. Surrendering the intellectual pride that I know and just saying, I'll do what you tell me, and also surrendering the heart, which means loving.
So it does a separate sense of I, that I exist separately. Does that still remain? Or do I surrender that as well?
On the path of bhakti, that is not part of the thought process, because when you join your mind with Radha Krishna, the I becomes, I am yours. I am your das. So on the path of Gyan, you try to eliminate main. You try to eliminate I. But on the path of bhakti, you keep I, you add something, I am yours. In bhakti, there's a relationship. Understand?
Yeah, so to come back to the Naresh Bhaiya's question, that when two souls, if they are both God realized, then then he said one is God realized and the other one is not. So the one who is God realized, he is only thinking about Radha Krishna, right? That I am yours. So he won't be thinking of the other soul. In reference to that question, right? Or when both of them,
you don't get benefit of attaching your mind to a divine personality because that divine personality is thinking of you. You get the benefit because you attached your mind to something divine. You get the quality of the thing or the person to whom you attach your mind, whether that person knows it or not.
Okay.
But of course, a divine personality, a God-realized saint living on earth is all-knowing. Even if they were like us, an ordinary person, after God realization, God gives His unlimited knowledge, unlimited bliss, everything. And it's also that soul's nature to help the other souls. So although, yes, their mind is only in Radha Krishna, but if there's somebody that they can help bring closer to Radha Krishna, they'll do that as well.
But for that moment, is their mind off Radha Krishna when they're thinking of the other person?
No, they're doing seva to Radha Krishna by bringing someone to them.
You're right. Okay, I get it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Radha.
So we have time for one last question, or yes, here in the front row.
Radha Madhav. We know that there is uncountable, Satyuga has passed, uncountable, all the yugas has passed. The question arises that in our scriptures there is very detailed description of, let's say, the Satyuga. We have Dhruv, Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu, all that. Same thing, there's a detailed description of Treta Yuga, and in Dwapar we have all this. Kali Yuga started 5,000 years ago, the current Kali Yuga, but uncountable Kali Yuga have already gone before. Why in the scriptures, this question arises that there is no complete description of the Kali Yuga, only the last 5,000 years that we hear.
Maybe there are, see, the most recent reproduction of the scriptures was at the end of Dwapar Yuga, right? Where the Vyas produced it. So if it's produced at some other time, maybe it will have include some other description. But what description do you want? The whole Rajvansh of what kings will rule India was described by Veda Vyasji ahead of time. 1,000 years of kings ahead of time, plus certain main events that are to come in Kali Yuga. He describes, what do you need? Just do bhakti.
So,
and the whole state of Kali Yuga, what will be the state of people's minds, described in detail.
Okay.
There's nothing more you need. Scriptures are not an entertainment just to read for curiosity. They tell us what we need to know, then do it.
So, any kind of a saints in the past, in the Kali Yuga, which
Buddha Bhagwan?
Yeah, in last 5,000, yeah. Okay, I think I got some idea. Thank you.
Okay, so let us finish with a few minutes of Kirtan. We can all close our eyes and do Roop Dhyan. Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
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 Radhe 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 Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
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 Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda,
Radhe Radhe Govinda, Radhe Radhe Govinda.
Shrimat Sadguru Sarkar ki